You know that tight chest moment where you're about to fire back, at work or at home, and your first sentence turns it into a fight. In the next minute, I'll give you one line that forces a 10-second pause and changes what comes out of your mouth. And later, we'll handle the moment they say, "Why are you talking to me like that?" Your chest tightens before your mind even votes on how to respond. You're standing in the kitchen with the fridge door half open, or you're on a work call with your camera on, and someone says it, the sentence that lands like a shove. Your shoulders rise. Your jaw hardens. Your breath goes thin. And you can feel the moment you're about to talk like you're already at war. You don't want to admit this, but when that tight chest shows up, you start your first sentence like you're trying to win a fight, not solve a problem. Here's the interruption you can use today, one exact sentence that stops a real behavior. Give me 10 seconds, I'm not ready to answer that calmly yet. Say it out loud, not in your head. Then do one long exhale through your nose, slower than you want to, like you're letting air out of a tire. In the next 10 minutes, that sentence changes the trajectory in a measurable way. You stop stacking words while your nervous system is lit up, you stop escalating with tone, and you stop making the next hour harder than it has to be. You'll feel your chest pressure loosen a notch, not because the situation is suddenly fine, but because you stopped feeding the surge with your mouth. Even if the other person doesn't love your pause, you'll feel relief in your body from not saying the sentence you always regret and then spend the rest of the day trying to take back. Educational content inspired by classical Stoic texts. Not medical, psychological, financial, or legal advice. This won't rush you, but it will keep you from spiraling. Because the tight chest moment isn't the argument. It's the ignition. It's the instant at work when someone questions you in front of people and your body reacts like your competence is on trial. It's at home when you hear, "You never listen," and your nervous system treats it like a verdict on your character. It's when you get a text that feels dismissive and your thumbs want to respond like you're cornered. And here's what makes it serious. Once you speak from that tight chest, you usually can't keep the conversation in the lane you want. Your words get sharper, your assumptions get louder, and the other person starts defending themselves from your tone instead of hearing your point. This is costing you trust, credibility, and peace. It's costing you the feeling that people can approach you without stepping into a storm. It's costing you the confidence that you can handle tension without becoming someone you don't respect afterward. You're not building perfect calm. You're building earlier control you can access in the first 5 seconds, before your mouth turns the surge into damage. You'll learn how to interrupt escalation with a body-based reset. You'll reduce conflict at work and at home by changing your first sentence under stress, so you stop opening with a punch. And you'll feel composed without feeling fake or weak, because you won't be acting nice. You'll be acting intentional. And if you want more lessons that stay useful the next time the pressure hits, consider subscribing, because repetition is what turns a good idea into a reflex. Subscribe for more Stoic Focus lessons like this. First, you'll learn to recognize the tight chest as a signal, not a command, so urgency stops pretending it's true. Next, you'll install a first sentence replacement that prevents the automatic escalation people around you have learned to expect. Then you'll practice a reset you can do without anyone noticing, even in a meeting or mid-conversation. Finally, you'll step into a realistic scene where the old reaction almost wins, and you'll see what it looks like to stay steady without pretending the tension isn't real. And later, I'm going to bring you to a specific pressure moment you probably recognize. Someone looks at you mid-conversation and says, "Why are you talking to me like that?" That's the moment you usually lose, because your tone got there before your values did. You're in a meeting that should be routine. A shared screen. A timeline. A few people nodded along. You've been carrying the plan for weeks, and you're trying to keep everything moving. Then someone says, lightly, "I don't think this is the right approach," and your chest tightens like you just got shoved in public. It's not the words alone, it's the implication your body hears. You're wrong. You're exposed. You're losing status. Your mind starts sprinting for weapons, facts, tone, speed, authority, anything that can shut the feeling down. Here's the microscript, verbatim, right when you notice the tight chest. "I'm noticing I'm getting reactive. Give me 10 seconds, then I'll answer clearly." You don't say it as a confession. You say it as a choice. 10 seconds. Not a lecture. Not a dramatic pause. Just 10 seconds. Why it works is simple and physical. That tightness is a body alarm. It's your nervous system preparing for a threat, and it doesn't care whether the threat is a bear or a colleague. It just cares that you feel cornered. When you name it, "I'm getting reactive," you stop merging with it. You create a small separation between the surge and your identity. The Stoics would call this a shift from being dragged by an impression to examining it. Epictetus would say the event isn't what wounds you, it's the judgment that follows, and that judgment often arrives in your body first. When you claim 10 seconds, you're not trying to erase emotion, you're giving your thinking a chance to join the room before your tone decides everything. Now make it friction real. Your manager asks, "Why is this taking so long?" and there are people listening. Your chest tightens because it feels like blame. Your impulse wants to fire back fast, because priorities keep changing, or because I didn't get what I needed, or the classic, "Well, if you'd stop, even if you're right," speed plus heat turns right into costly. So you use the script, "I'm noticing I'm getting reactive. Give me 10 seconds, then I'll answer clearly." You look down at your notes. You let your exhale go long. 10 seconds passes, and now you can say, "Here's what's done, here's what's blocked, and here's what I need." Same truth, different delivery. You didn't back down, you took control of the channel. Tiny action for today, measurable, one time today. When your chest tightens in a conversation, you will take a full 10 seconds before you answer. Count it quietly if you have to. If you can't count, watch the second hand on a clock, or count breaths, one slow exhale, one normal inhale, one slow exhale. You're not aiming for comfort. You're aiming for interruption. Here's a brief slow practice moment you can do right now. Drop your shoulders 1 inch. Not relax everything. 1 inch. Then unclench your jaw by separating your teeth slightly. Now exhale slowly through your nose. As you exhale, let your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. People brace their tongue like they're bracing for impact. Tongue down is a quiet signal to your body, "We're not charging." That's what you're training, the ability to keep your body from handing your mouth a weapon. And here's the forward pull, why this matters later. If you can claim 10 seconds in a low-stakes meeting, you can claim 10 seconds when it's someone you love, when it's a topic that touches your pride, when the old version of you wants to win by hurting. The tool is small on purpose, because small tools are the ones you actually use when the pressure is real. It's after work, and you're already low on patience. You've made decisions all day. You've been interrupted all day. Your brain feels like it's been scraped thin. You walk into the house, or you get on the phone, and the first thing you hear is a complaint. "You didn't do what you said." "Why didn't you call?" "I can't rely on you." The tight chest shows up immediately, and your body interprets the complaint as an attack. You feel your mind reach for defense like it's reaching for a shield. Here's the mistake, you let your first sentence come out as a verdict. Even when you think you're just responding, your first sentence under stress often turns into a character accusation. It starts with you. You always, you never, you don't. That single word launches the other person into defense mode, because nobody hears you always as a request for teamwork. They hear it as a courtroom statement. And then the conversation becomes a battle about who's right, not a solution to what's real. Here's the correction, and it's simple enough to remember when you're heated. No first sentence that starts with you. Not because you're walking on eggshells. Because your first sentence sets the emotional rules of the next 5 minutes. If you open with you, you invite defense. If you open with your own state, you invite cooperation or at least reduce fuel. Use this script, verbatim, when the tight chest hits, "I'm getting heated. I want to understand, but I need a short pause so I don't say this wrong." Notice what this does. It doesn't surrender your point. It doesn't fake calm. It doesn't apologize for existing. It announces your internal state and protects the conversation from your worst delivery. Why it works, your first sentence is the steering wheel. If you yank it hard, you throw everyone in the car. If you hold it steady, you can still change direction, just without crashing. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the ability to remain unruffled, not as a pose, but as a commitment to reason. The goal isn't to be emotionless, it's to be accurate. When you're in a tight chest moment, your accuracy drops because you're speaking from threat. The pause restores accuracy. Tiny action for today. Choose one high-risk moment: work email, spouse conversation, family group chat, roommate tension, and commit to one rep of the rule. One time, your first sentence will not start with you. If you want something even more concrete, pick a replacement starter: I'm noticing, or I'm feeling, or I want. These starters keep you in your lane. Now add a pattern interrupt that breaks the trance of escalation. Ask yourself silently, what do I want the next 5 minutes to feel like? Not what I want the final verdict to be. Not who I want to be right. The next 5 minutes. When you're reactive, your brain time travels. It pulls in every past frustration and tries to settle the entire history right now. That question drags you back to the present and forces you to choose an aim: workable, calmer, clearer. Here's a North American friction example. You're texting, and you read, K. Or you read something that feels cold, and your chest tightens because it triggers that familiar story: they don't respect me. Your thumbs want to type a sharp response that escalates fast. Instead, you follow the rule. You type, I'm getting heated. I want to understand, but I need a short pause so I don't say this wrong. Even if you don't send it, writing it slows you down. It changes what your body expects your next move to be. Forward pull. Later, when you're face to face and the other person says, why are you talking to me like that? This rule is what prevents your tone from becoming the main problem. You'll still have feelings. You'll still have a tight chest. But your first sentence won't turn that feeling into a weapon. Let's kill a myth that keeps you trapped: if I don't react strongly, they'll think I'm weak. That belief sounds like strength, but it's a leash. It convinces you that escalation is protection. It makes your identity depend on being unchallenged. And then any challenge, real or imagined, triggers the tight chest and the war voice. The cost is predictable. You win in the moment by being sharp, and then you lose later in trust, closeness, and self-respect. Here's the instruction, with stakes: when the tight chest shows up, slow your output. Slow your words. Slow your tone. Slow your body. Not because you're surrendering, but because speed under threat is how you say the sentence you can't unsay. The stakes aren't philosophical. They're practical. The first 5 seconds of your tone can decide whether the next hour is repair or damage control. Use this script, verbatim, when you feel the other person pushing and you feel yourself wanting to snap: I'm not ignoring you. I'm regulating so I don't say this wrong. That line does something important: it prevents your pause from being interpreted as dismissal. A lot of escalation happens because the other person thinks your silence is contempt. This sentence clarifies the intention: you're pausing to protect the conversation, not to punish them. Now put it in a high-pressure North American moment. You're at home and someone keeps pressing, saying, so what, you're just not going to answer. Your chest tightens harder because now it's not only the topic, it's your control being challenged. Or you're at work and someone takes a jab, wow, defensive much, and your body wants to prove you're not weak by getting louder. That's the trap. The trap is thinking you have to answer the challenge with force. The correction is answering it with steadiness. Slow practice moment, stress tested, no one has to notice. First, unclench your hands. If your fists are tight, your nervous system is already halfway into fight. Loosen your fingers. Let your arms feel heavy. Second, do a double exhale: inhale normally, exhale, and at the end of the exhale push out a little more air, like a second smaller sigh. That second exhale is a nervous system cue: this is not immediate danger. Third, soften your eyes. When people get reactive, their eyes narrow like they're hunting for threat. Soft eyes tell your body you're not in combat. Then you use the script: I'm not ignoring you. I'm regulating so I don't say this wrong. You say it slowly. Slower than feels natural. Slow is the whole strategy. Slow is what gives your values time to step in front of your impulse. And here's the tease without closure. In a moment, you're going to enter a scene where the other person doesn't cooperate. They keep pushing. They don't respect the pause. They bait you. You'll feel the tight chest clamp down and you'll want to end it with a cutting line. We're not going to pretend you'll never feel that urge. We're going to show what it looks like to keep your center while the pressure stays on, and how to improve without claiming completion. It's a weekday evening. You're tired in a modern way, overstimulated, under-recovered, still carrying work in your body even though you're home. The conversation begins normally: who's picking up groceries, what time the appointment is, what the weekend looks like. Then it shifts. The other person says, "I can't rely on you," or, "You said you'd handle it and you didn't." The words land like a verdict, and your chest tightens instantly. Your throat goes dry. Your mind starts building a defense case before you even decide you want one. Old reaction moves in like it owns the place. You can feel your first sentence forming, and it starts with you. "You're not being fair. You always bring this up. You don't see what I do." Your voice wants to sharpen because sharpness feels like protection. For a moment, you almost let it fly. You even feel that half-second of satisfaction at the thought of landing a point that hurts back. Then you catch the ignition. Not perfectly. Not like a saint. You just catch it early enough to intervene. You say, out loud, clearly, "Give me 10 seconds, I'm not ready to answer that calmly yet." It feels strange to say it in real life, because real life doesn't pause for scripts. But you say it anyway. You look away for a moment, not to punish them, but to stop your nervous system from feeding off eye contact intensity. You exhale long through your nose. Your tongue drops. Your shoulders lower a fraction. They might respond with irritation. "Here we go again." You always need time. That stings, and your chest tightens again, stronger this time, because now your pause is being judged. This is the moment where your old self usually escalates, because you feel trapped. You feel mocked. You feel challenged. You want to prove you're not weak. So you apply the second tool. No first sentence that starts with "you." You can feel the "you" sentence pressing at the edge of your mouth like it's desperate to escape. Instead, you start in your lane: "I'm getting heated. I want to understand, but I need a short pause so I don't say this wrong." You're not pretending you're fine. You're protecting the channel. They keep going: "I'm tired of asking. I'm tired of carrying everything." Your mind wants to argue about accuracy. Your mind wants to correct the exaggeration. Your mind wants to list the things you've done. And for a second, you almost do it. Your tone starts to rise. You feel the tight chest clamp again, pulling you toward the old habit like gravity. Now you bring in the third tool, the line that keeps your pause from being interpreted as dismissal. "I'm not ignoring you. I'm regulating so I don't say this wrong." You say it slower than your impulse wants. You can feel the part of you that wants to speed up, to dominate the moment with fast words. You resist that speed. You slow down on purpose. And you do a slow practice moment inside the live scene. You notice your hands are clenched. You loosen them. Fingers open. Palms soften. You do one double exhale, out, then a little more out. You feel the chest pressure shift from a hard clamp to a tight band. It's still uncomfortable. But it's carryable. You're no longer being driven. You ask the pattern interrupt question silently: "What do I want the next 5 minutes to feel like?" You don't want a courtroom. You don't want a scoreboard. You want to be workable. You want less damage. So you choose an aiming sentence instead of a winning sentence. "Okay. Tell me the one thing that felt most disappointing today." That's not surrender. That's precision. That's you steering toward clarity. They talk. Maybe they soften a little. Maybe they're still frustrated. Real life doesn't always reward you immediately. But you notice something: you're not escalating. You're not stacking insults. You're not widening the fight into old resentments just to avoid feeling cornered. When something unfair is said, you feel the tight chest again, but you spot it earlier now, like a smoke alarm that works before the fire spreads. And the moment ends like real life ends, unfinished. The topic isn't fully resolved. There's still work to do. But something is calmer. The room feels less dangerous. You didn't become a different person overnight, but you did become a more deliberate version of yourself in the only moment that matters, the moment you usually lose. Improvement, not completion. Clearer, not perfect. Ongoing, not solved. The core lesson is this: reacting is your body driving and your mouth following. Responding is creating a small space and choosing your next sentence on purpose, so you stay intentional instead of scattered. First, we stepped directly into the tight chest ignition and used one sentence to interrupt the automatic escalation before your tone could turn into a weapon. Then we practiced naming the surge and claiming 10 seconds so your clarity could enter the room before your impulse took over. Next, we changed the emotional contract by changing your first sentence, "No you openings," so you stop triggering defense the moment you speak. Finally, we stress-tested a durable line and a quiet body reset so you can stay steady even when the other person keeps pushing and the pressure doesn't resolve quickly. Today, use the 10-second claim exactly once. Say, "Give me 10 seconds, I'm not ready to answer that calmly yet," and wait a real 10 seconds before your next sentence. Today, follow the no-you first sentence rule one time. Begin with "I'm getting heated," not an accusation, and notice how the room shifts. Today, perform one double exhale reset in a live moment. Unclench your hands. Exhale, then push out a little more air at the end, and keep your voice slower than your impulse wants. Next, the logical follow-up is boundaries, because emotional control gets easier when you stop accepting conversations at the worst possible time. A sample title is Stoic Boundaries: How to Say No Without Starting a Fight, and it's the next layer because clean boundaries prevent the tight chest from firing as often in the first place. Subscribe for continued emotional control, so your first 5 seconds don't decide your whole day. Subscribe for more Stoic Focus lessons like this.